Oh, man, you play that game. You are big time.
Hello, Captain.
Tell me something. Are you required to flirt as some part of your job?
They don't say to do it.
But if you don't,
I lose the tip.
you know how to count cards?
No,
If you don't know how to count cards, better stay away from blackjack.
I'd like 150 in dollar tokens.
I see the way John worships you and follows you like you're his captain.
John is a very old friend.
I haven't told John, but I know about Atlantic City.
He thinks you don't like him.
I don't. Do you realize how serious this is?
Where am I gonna go?
I don't know, John. Away, anywhere, away.
What about Niagara Falls?
No, I'm not at Niagara Falls.
Why not?
I've been there before.
I'm talking about kidnapping, extortion.
Man owes me, and now he's gonna pay me.
You get the money up front.
Hello, I'm Thomas Carruthers.
Hello, I'm David Whiting.
And David, let's have a glimpse behind the curtain. This is like the Wizard of Oz. I am leaving to do a cruise job. And so we were looking at the schedule and you said, why don't we do a podcast before I go? And in typical me fashion...
Why don't we do 8?
Yeah. In typical me fashion, I said, well, why don't we, we'll just do this whole series. Yes. So this is my favorite director. I think currently the ranking is, let me have a look, because I am a weirdo who has all these rankings. My top 10 directors: Paul Thomas Anderson, number 1, Woody Allen, number 2 for my sins, 3, Martin Scorsese, 4, Mike Nichols, then Fincher, then Tarantino, then Rob Reiner, then Noah Baumbach, then Coen Brothers, then Tim Burton. And you
don't want to throw Wes Anderson on there because it's too basic.
No, because this is the thing. Rushmore is in my top 20 films of all time. But, and there's not an Anderson movie that I don't like. I'm actually going to do a live swap for you now, David. I'm swapping out the Coen Brothers for Brian De Palma because I've recently rewatched all the De Palmas. I know. But then I'll rewatch all the Coen Brothers. The first... The top 5, top 6, top 7 are pretty solid. I don't think they'll move for a while. But Paul Thomas Anderson.
I mean, I've heard you talk about Paul Thomas Anderson before we even did the Paul Thomas Anderson podcast idea. So, yeah. I mean, he's always been one of your faves.
Currently, in my top 20, Magnolia and Boogie Nights is at 5 and Magnolia is at 13. And those are definitely my 2 favorites of his oeuvre. However, it's that thing of, I look at this list. Woody's made bad movies. Scorsese has made a couple of clunkers. Mike Nichols has made bad movies. David Fincher has made one bad movie, which is Alien 3. And did he really make it? That's one of those things. Tarantino, I'm not a huge Death Proof fan. I don't think it's terrible like some people, but I'm not a huge Death Proof fan.
I couldn't say that I've seen Death Proof, so...
No, you don't need to rush to it. Rob Reiner's made bad movies. Noah Baumbach has made a couple of movies where I'm like, oh, okay, that wasn't as good. Brian De Palma's made terrible movies. Tim Burton has made bad movies. Now, I also want to say all of this with a pinch of salt because Paul Thomas Anderson's only made 10 movies so far.
Less chance to screw up.
Less chance to screw up, but there's not been a bad one yet. Inherent Vice is my least favorite, but it's not bad.
Well, you say that's your least favorite, but you said last night when we were watching Hard Eight, peek behind the curtain there, but when we were watching Hard Eight, you said that this was his worst movie. But I
think a lot of people say it's his
favorite.
Yeah, it's not my least favorite. A lot of people say this is his worst movie. A lot of people, when Licorice Pizza came out, there was lots of ranking videos and lots of podcasts and all that sort of thing, and I just eat it all up. And a lot of people were putting Hard Eight on the bottom. And they were just like, it's good, but you can see where he's going to go from now. This last watch, last night, I was pretty stunned, really, by how solid it really is. And
I didn't really see any problems in the movie last night. Thought it was quite well done.
This is what's so good about you being here, David, because you are, well, we don't know whether you're a virgin. You think you may have seen The Master, but you're not exactly sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen it. The impression it left was confused.
Well, yeah.
But
but this is one of those things where, like, in reverse. So people usually find Hard Eight after Boogie Nights and Magnolia and all these, you know, and obviously There Will Be Blood and all these great masterpieces that have had such critical and some extent commercial favor. And then they come back to Hard Eight. Whereas for all intents and purposes, let's just say that this is your first Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
Yeah, that would be fair. It's the first one that I'm going into it knowing I am watching a Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
Yes, that's another good. I'm trying to think. I don't think that I've ever had that experience.
Like going into a movie knowing what directors.
Like not knowing things.
Oh yeah, no, that's me with almost every movie. I mean, unless someone explicitly tells me, hey, I mean, it obviously, if you've got like a Wes Anderson movie or a Quentin Tarantino movie, you almost instantly know, oh, this is a Wes Anderson or Quentin Tarantino movie. But I mean, I feel like Paul Thomas Anderson, David Fincher, not so much the Coen brothers, they're pretty distinct, but you can sit down, and if you have no prior knowledge of like who they are, you wouldn't necessarily know that this is a David Fincher movie by watching it, I guess.
Well, let's talk. I think we can start talking here. Let's talk about Sundance, and let's talk about this 90s indie boom. I mean, we've done 6 Tarantino episodes. We've done 6 Wes Anderson episodes, and Wes Anderson sort of comes a little bit on the tail end with Bottle Rocket. But this big boom, your Soderberghs, your Finchers,
this wouldn't have been. Was this around the same time of the Hollywood writers' strike, by any chance?
I don't know. Which one?
Yeah, well, there was a time when they were basically just taking original screenplays and producing them. Anybody could bring anything in.
List of Hollywood strikes. This is a fun tangent. So in 1980, there was an actors' strike. In 1973, there was a writers' strike. In 1981, there was a writer's strike. In 1987, there was a director's strike. In 1988, there was another writer's strike. No. And then the next writer's strike was 2007, 2008.
I was curious if there was maybe something going on that would just facilitate a bunch of kind of indie movies coming out all around that same. I think
it's more so the commercial boom of Sundance and that being a viable thing. I think Tarantino swung those doors open the minute, because Reservoir Dogs was a small hit, but the minute that Pulp Fiction became such a huge hit, people then started going back to Reservoir Dogs, and then the whole thing of Sundance Darling and the Sundance generation became a marketing thing. Like you
people
could now
looking for bank on the fact that your movie was at Sundance.
You can start getting a little bit of a boost with your Soderberghs, with your Robert Rodriguez. You know, that suddenly we're back to the 50s and make your own movie and all that sort of thing. And the idea of Robert Rodriguez making El Mariachi on like a couple of grand or whatever it was becomes a profitable marketing thing of like, oh, how exciting, we're going to see this movie that cost a couple of grand, but it's still good apparently. And that and then you get Desperado, and there is a big, I think there's a lovely through line to see in all of these movies, like Reservoir Dogs to Pulp Fiction, El Mariachi to Desperado. We'll see this next week or next episode, Hard Eight to Boogie Nights, and it's interesting, and then Bottle Rocket to Rushmore. It's these interesting debuts. I think the smallest jump is Reservoir Dogs to Pulp Fiction, because I think
they feel like they're existing in the same universe in a lot of ways.
Because I think a lot of people forget how much of Reservoir Dogs isn't actually just in the warehouse. I think people have this like Mandela effect memory of
it's all just him bleeding to death in the warehouse.
Apart from the opening diner, but you have the flashes of Steve Buscemi leaving. You have all the stuff of the aftermath.
Flashbacks of the background training, or the undercover training.
That's a whole 10 minutes. And there I guess I get like a splash of water on my face, and that's like just a whole 10 minutes. And so that feels like the least jump. I mean, the biggest jump would probably be El Mariachi to Desperado. I think with Hard Eight to Boogie Nights, and then even Boogie Nights to Magnolia, which you wouldn't think is a jump, but we will see as this huge jump. Oh God, I love Magnolia so much. I had the great pleasure of being able to watch Magnolia when I was in Philadelphia for my semester abroad. It was would that have been the 15th or the 10th? No, it couldn't have been the 10th anniversary. It might have been the 20. It was 1999. So would that have been the 15th anniversary? Because I was in America just before COVID. I don't know numbers. It was an anniversary. It was an anniversary. And I had the great pleasure of watching Magnolia on the big screen. And,
very nice.
And
I was assigned Magnolia for a class. I was supposed to watch it. I watched the first 10 minutes.
The best 10 minutes of the film.
It was fantastic. I got why we were watching it for the class. And
what was the class?
End up Laban, the movement and how, and we were learning how people operate from different centers of thought essentially, and how that colors them. So I think what he was doing with Magnolia, where you're constantly flashing between scenes of these different characters' lives, you need to get very quickly like what kind of person they are, because they're only going to be on screen for like 3 minutes. Yeah, it's great. It was very.
I fucking love Magnolia. When we do the Magnolia, so I've seen the first 10 minutes. I've seen up to John C. Reilly busting into that woman's apartment. Okay.
And like
Marcy, please sit down.
Finding the guy in the closet.
So you know nothing about the final half an hour of Magnolia?
No, I don't know anything.
This is going to be absolutely brilliant. Okay. I'm fascinated by what you're going to... Anyway, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Hard Eight.
Eight, yes.
Budget of 3 million, box office of 222,000. So not really the Sundance box office, darling, I'm making it out to be. Originally titled Sydney. Now, basically, the long and short of the production is that the way that Paul Thomas Anderson tells it is that they completely recut it and named it Hard Eight. And then he said, please, can I have my cut, but we can call it Hard Eight. Whenever he talks about it in interviews or whenever it's brought up, people will be like, what about Hard Eight? You know, what about your first film? And he'll go, yeah, Sydney was a fun film to make. Like, he will literally, the next sentence or whatever, he will start calling it Sydney again. We're not going to go that far today, but we will still call it Hard Eight. But
Sydney, a fantastic movie.
Yeah, Sydney is a good name. Is Sydney a better name, or is this just like you've got to kill your darlings? Is Sydney just his little baby that he's holding?
I mean, I certainly didn't know what Hard Eight meant. Like, I didn't understand the reference of the title. So, I mean, maybe Sydney would have been a better name. I don't. It certainly did. But I think if it had been named Sydney, the idea of what the plot would have been given away too early. Sort of the ambiguousness of Sydney and his motivations throughout the movie is kind of what gives it some tension in a movie that otherwise doesn't have too much conflict happening for quite a while.
I think the first 10 minutes are sort of led to believe that Sydney will be the best supporting actor win for Philip Baker Hall, and it's going to be John C. Reilly's movie. And then you slowly come to learn, this is
Philip Baker Hall's movie. Yeah. And I think that ambiguousness, if it had been named Sydney, that ambiguousness wouldn't have been there, and it would have been like, okay, this is Philip Baker Hall's story. We're going to be
quite
following.
A fun, not necessarily a twist. There is a twist, but there's not really the twist of which, like, I was watching it with you, and you were like, this is just a character study of this guy. Also, I forget on a first watch what you think of Sydney on like first watch. You're like, oh wait, is this guy just a pervert with Gwyneth Paltrow? Is he a good man? Is he like? And I think there's some interesting filmmaking choices with that as well.
I think it really makes it interesting because there truly is no conflict, I'd say, until the hotel room, essentially. Like, there's some tension in that Sydney doesn't like Jimmy. But pretty much every problem that arises, Sydney can instantly fix, essentially. So I think the tension and the thing that makes it interesting is at the beginning is like, why the fuck is this guy doing all this nice stuff? Like, what's the other shoe gonna drop?
And I can see a movie where the shoe never does drop, and you're just like, oh, this is a nice guy.
Yeah.
And I do think that the shoe dropping, as effectively as it does, really, really puts the whole film into a different lens.
And I thought it was a more interesting choice than just Sydney's evil and is manipulating, John.
Yeah, it's not like because. Well, this is a spoiler review. We come to learn basically that Sydney used to be in the mafia. Well, no, we don't know that, but we know that he was some sort of criminal activity.
Some sort of guy killing people out in his day.
And either he was a mafioso or he was a hitman for the mafia. Either way, he was a hard, what Jimmy calls him. You used to be a hard ass in your time.
A hard ass, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I forgot what point I was trying to make, but it was something.
The twist is that.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So 10-minute stretch. This is what we do here. So the opening chat is Paul Thomas Anderson's short film Cigarettes and Coffee, which was quite a big hit in the circuits, and people were interested. Now I don't know whether he'd wrote all of the script for Sydney and then had the opportunity to make a short film and was like, oh, this opening 10 minutes is a short film, or whether he wrote that short film and then that got some popularity or whatever, and then he was like, okay, what comes after this point? Either way, it's an excellent 10
question,
minutes. Yeah,
it's fantastic. And I mean, I would lean on the side of he wrote the short film first and then developed the script out of it, because I mean, and there's really no way to tell when you're looking at the finished project, but that first 10 minutes, it could end there. That could be the whole narrative, is just them leaving the diner together, essentially. Like a full story happens in those 10 minutes, basically. It
even has the title card after that. It doesn't, it's not the title card and then we have that 10 minutes and then it's straight in. There is this whole segmentation of fade to black, Michael Penn's score strikes up, and then we get the title card. And it's like, that's a prologue, and here we go. Which I think is a very interesting choice. Then we get the rate card trick, which is my other favorite 10-minute stretch. Paul Thomas Anderson said in his research that he managed to do this rate card trick multiple times. So it is doable. I don't understand the grift. I was sitting there watching and I was like, I don't understand how he's walking away with more money than he started with, but I kind of accepted, like, I don't think he's walking away with more money. I think he gets the free room because they think he's winning lots. And he says, well, it's that great moment where he's literally
actually getting more cash out there. There's something where he goes to exchange his cash for chips.
Yeah.
Plays with the chips, comes back, puts his winnings on a rate card in some. I really don't understand the grift. He's only putting 20. He's only doing 20 slowly, isn't he? Yes, but he's taking away hundreds in cash by the end. Like, so he has somehow like gone in and essentially with the casino's own credit has now walked away with more cash than he started with. And I don't really understand.
I don't. But
I was willing to suspend my disbelief. Like, okay, this guy has inside information on how to cheat a casino. That's all I really needed to get like out of it. He's, Sydney is clever enough to know how to cheat a casino. And that was the point of,
I know they still do this with like high rollers and all that sort of thing, but I don't think they're giving away free rooms in like Atlantic City.
I mean, certainly not for somebody who's spending a couple $100 on fucking slot machines anymore.
who has his entire life's clothes and stuff in a bag, in a goddamn bag. Yeah, I don't think that's the sort of high roller that they want. I got tickets for a show. I got you a ticket for a show. Oh, thank you. Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Then the Phillips scene. And this is also one of those great parts of this movie where you're just like, oh, this is a star for life. Now, he was in Scent of a Woman before this. He was one of the kids who made the prank in Scent of a Woman. Have you seen Scent of a Woman, David?
I can't say I have.
It's the Al Pacino Oscar movie. Let's Philip Seymour Hoffman. I don't know what else he was in prior to this. Obviously, this is
The Master.
He was in The Master after, yeah. He was in, yeah, Scent of a Woman. What else was he?
The Hunger Games.
Yeah, that's true. How sad.
He's fantastic in The Big Lebowski.
He's fantastic in many things. I was just looking at like what he was in before this. Because Hard Eight, Magnolia, and Boogie Nights all have many of the same actors. And I'll save this question for when we do Magnolia. But to me, there is a world where instead of then making Punch Drunk Love again with Philip Seymour Hoffman, but then with Adam Sandler and a smaller cast, it's like, why not just keep making these huge dramas with all these people? There is a part of me that goes, why not just have this band of players? I mean, obviously his filmmaking segues more into the single character study rather than these ensemble epics that mark his first three films.
And I think possibly a victim of his own success, everyone in these movies, went on to become some very successful, very busy actors. And I imagine it gets harder and harder to bring this whole cast together for every movie, especially when they've got other things on offer now. There's
the wonderful film The Talented of Mr. Ripley, which also has Philip Seymour Hoffman in it, and the director Andrew Minghella. It's not Andrew, Anthony Minghella. Literally made the choice of, I want to get many of the youngest, hottest actors around. And then he said, by the end of the next year, they all have their own movies. And these people are Philip Seymour Hoffman, Cate Blanchett, Jude Law, Gwyneth Paltrow. Gwyneth Paltrow in this, of course. And let's talk about Gwyneth. Because my next 10-minute stretch. Oh no! Let's stay with Philip Seymour Hoffman for the Hard Eight taunting. Shakalaka-doo, shakalaka-dee. Come on, old man. And he doesn't break emotion once.
Yeah, no, I mean, neither one of them necessarily do. Philip Seymour Hoffman is unfailingly obnoxious and upbeat. Even after losing his high role, and Sidney himself is completely unmoved, doesn't say anything.
All he has is that one moment where it's being rolled and he goes, come on, and that's all he can break out. That's all he can let slip.
It's a fascinating character study, and I'm curious what Philip Baker Hall was kind of thinking of for the things that drive Sidney, essentially. Like there's clearly a thrill for him still in gambling. He's playing Keno at the table, and I think maybe in that moment he saw like something of an older him, possibly in Philip Seymour Hoffman. Maybe a time when he was himself doing really high stakes at gambling tables and that sort of thing, rather than doing basic cons and looking after John C. Reilly.
Yeah, like young upstart. Yeah, this is the thing, dude. Because Sidney's alone.
He's alone, and we never meet another character who actually knows anything about his past other than
Jimmy.
The obvious one. Yeah. And really all Jimmy knows is that he was a gangster and that he killed somebody.
Yeah. Jimmy says, I know all the same guys as you, and he names Floyd Gondoli and Jimmy Gator, who, spoiler alert, are Philip Baker Hall's characters in Boogie Nights and Magnolia, which is a wonderful thing. Not the literal people, but the names. So I'm still waiting for the Mumbles O'Malley movie. I literally am still waiting. Come on, Paul. Come on, Philip. And why is he alone? I've never seen him as somebody who used to be like a fun guy. I think he was always the business-like, quiet type, and that's why he's alone, because nobody wants to be with him. There's two options. Either everybody's dead, everybody's either been killed or has died because it was a different generation, or nobody actually liked Sidney, and so now he's just alone. He's just alone in Atlantic City.
I would lean towards, since he's got the haunted look going so often, I guess I lent more towards this guy has a history and has left a lot of it behind. But there's still parts of it that he's like carrying with him essentially. But yeah, I guess I went much more with he is of the past generation of mafiosos who have all died out or aged out of the business, and now he has nothing really, because that was his whole world essentially.
Because you do kind of get it with, I mean, this is why I love The Irishman so much, because it's just like a whole hour of aging and morality and death after the fact. I love The Irishman. People who say, God, anyway, I don't want to start that tangent. Then the hostage reveal. And this is where the movie really turns on a dime.
Yes, that's when it kicks in.
And I'm most likely guessing that you watching this for the first time, you were like, oh, this is what the movie's going to be.
Sorry, my camera's just gone out.
It's all right. 1 minute. We were talking about the hostage reveal.
Yes.
Yes, and how that completely changes the entire film. Now, this was a first watch for you, so I'm guessing you just thought that this was going to be it for the rest of the film. What was your feelings when suddenly, after 10 minutes or so, it's more or less resolved?
Yeah, I was certain, like, okay, this is the plot. Is they're going to be dealing with this? And yeah, it left me kind of, I have no idea where this could be going. Essentially, I thought it was a really good twist, and that it essentially changed up the story. But as Sydney resolved the issue, which just makes the question even stronger of like, why is this guy doing all this stuff? What is his motivation behind helping John C. Reilly with everything, even something like this? Because up to now, what John C. Reilly has helped them with has all been pretty wholesome, nice things to do for a person. He showed John C. Reilly how to, provide for himself, basically, take care of himself. Got, Gwyneth Paltrow tried to be a welcome friend to Gwyneth Paltrow. He was the Cupid of Reno, setting up John C. Reilly.
That should have been, that's a better title than both Sydney and Hard Reno and Hard Eight.
Oh yeah, but yeah, it was fantastic because you're just left with no real clue of what the plot is going to be, and the even now more burning question of what is he helping them for? Because now it's gone outside the realm of just buying someone a cup of coffee. He's helped them cover up a kidnapping and possibly killed this guy by beating him over the head with a pistol by the end. But
and now we also know that he has criminal smarts.
Yeah, that he knows what to do in this situation.
He's not just some old gambler guy. He knows what he's doing in criminal activity, which is another wonderful turn. And you go, oh God, what's that?
Like, why is he helping this guy? Yeah, no, I fully expected this whole time it was going to be some sort of where he's basically grooming John C. Reilly to be his replacement in some way, or to be his henchman or fall guy or something. I was fully expecting eventually that John C. Reilly was going to be pinned with some horrible crime or something. But that's not what happened.
No. Which any other 10-minute stretches, David? Those were my nominations.
Yeah, I did like the bit with Jimmy and Sydney in the car together.
That's the one. I literally, I don't know why I didn't write that down. Sorry. Yeah, what an incredible scene.
Fantastic. I love him sitting down in the car, the exchange over the cigarette. Like, can you not smoke in here? No, seriously, don't fucking smoke in here.
Okay, can I have one? Can I have one? Just the excellent sound effects of the leather. The leather on leather.
Every move Sam Jackson makes in that car, just hear it.
It's just such an evocative sound. I love that sound. What's your favorite sound? This is a great tangent because I enjoyed that sound, and I also I was talking with your girlfriend about my favorite sound on the Go with the Dragon Tattoo episode.
Really?
Yes, I love the sound of cars on gravel.
Oh, that is a good one. Yeah.
And there's a scene in Go with the Dragon Tattoo where Stellan Skarsgård pulls up, and even though it's a very tense scene, I keep going. that's lovely.
Yeah.
Sounds of cars on gravel.
Good stuff. It's hard for me. I like the sound. I like ambiance is my thing. I love a good diner.
Well, yes.
One of my favorite parts almost always in Pulp Fiction is the sounds of the diner going on around everyone as they're having these conversations.
Just a nice soft hum.
A nice soft hum and the clinking of glassware occasionally is just good stuff.
No, I enjoy that. Yeah. Which brings us to what do we do next? What shall we do next? What do you fancy? I think we should do whatever the structure of each.
Whatever
Tom's
you're about
weirdly,
to say.
Here we are. Tom's weirdly specific favorite part of the film. Here's a couple. The tolling bells over the credits.
God, it was so damn ominous.
And these are used again in Boogie Nights to even greater effects. And this feels like a thing of, okay, not many people saw Hard Eight. I'm going to take those bells. Thank you, Michael. So this is scored by Michael Penn, Sean Penn's brother, who did the score for this and Boogie Nights. Then John Bryan comes along and does Magnolia and Punch Drunk Love. And then for the rest of his career, he's been working with Johnny Greenwood of Radiohead, and who has obviously become one of our great composers. I mean, I thought he was going to win his Oscar this year for Power of the Dog, but he didn't because he didn't make any instruments, whereas Hans Zimmer... Dune. I think they should have said Dune more in the ambient. Dune. Just in the exact same tone as Jason Derulo screaming "milk" in Cat. Milk.
When I was filling out my Oscar ballot for you, I was tempted to just check Dune for every category that Dune was in.
You would have got more points.
Partly because it was one of the only ones I actually saw, but I was also like, they're gonna give Dune everything. It's obviously been the one that's been pushed the hardest for Oscars.
I mean, we're talking completely after the fact now, but I could have seen a world where Dune could have crept up and taken a couple of the big awards, but that never happened, did it? And also, by the time that this is released, I think we'll have had another Oscars.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully
the way your schedule works, you've got this stuff planned out for the next.
I have to. I have a very busy life now with multiple months missing out of it. I have to do these things. This is what I have to do. This is my life's work.
You don't understand. The podcast needs to happen.
You switched it for Provasic. I go very crazy when talking about the show.
So weirdly specific favorite part.
Yes, in my experience, if you don't know how to count cards, then you should stay away from blackjack.
You should stay away from blackjack.
I'm not looking for a hooker, John. I just absolutely love it. I don't suck dick. Okay, I understand that, John. I wrote a screenplay. You weren't there for it, but it has a younger male character, and it's set in 1963. Ooh, what happened then? And there's an older father figure character, and it has a sort of similar situation where he goes, "I'm not a homosexual, you know." And then literally that became a running gag for the rest of the read through. Anytime somebody said something like, "What do you mean? I'm not," and then somebody would immediately jump in, "I'm not a homosexual, you know."
I'm not a homosexual, you know.
And that became a whole running joke, even in the most touching moments of the film. But I allowed it. We were having a fun time. I enjoy that more than when we do the comedies. And you've seen me like listening to people.
Oh yeah, as people fail to deliver the jokes the way you imagined them.
I start twitching. But of course, it's a cold read. I should be nicer. The Matchers Cutaway, which isn't a filmmaking thing that Anderson does a lot outside of like Magnolia, really. But like these brief, there's no other amalgam. These Family Guy like cutaways.
Oh yeah, where it's like you're in one scene, then it cuts off to something, and it's
hey Lois, remember that time those matches went off in my pocket?
Oh, I thought it was great. It's sort of
I liked it too, yeah.
Yeah, it's the world of that John C. Reilly is kind of living in, I think, is he's not really in the present in a lot of ways. He's not thinking about things. He's caught up in what happened when the matches caught on fire in his pocket.
Which leads to one of my latest specific favorite parts, where Sydney comes and finds them talking in the morning, and he's literally doing the same story. He's like, "Yeah, I don't carry matches. I mean, it just went up." And I just love that he's so boring that he only has one anecdote, and it's just this
that's
same match story.
John's one story.
Sydney getting a drink about getting a drink in the rate card scene. Did you get a drink? No. Never get a drink. That'll be $145 cocktail.
Yeah.
Is Sydney a
Don't
drinker?
drink.
I should have noted this when in like the Kino scene. He does. He is drinking. Yeah.
He is drinking. Yeah. I think his point for John is like, you're on the grift sort of thing. Yeah. But I think he has several drinks throughout the film. But yeah. I don't know. Sydney's an old hand. He knows how to handle his liquor. Maybe John C. Reilly ended up in his position because he was drunk and throwing all his money away. I love
John C. Reilly later, and he's like, what's Sydney having?
What's Sydney having? I'll have that.
Just a weird image that's always stuck with me from this one: the wedding couple at the slot machine with the wife with the neck brace. It's just like, it's just one of those interesting little images that sticks with you.
It makes me think of sort of like the Coen brothers, who make those incredibly detailed side characters, idiosyncratic, like little side characters that are in the movie for a scene and then are never seen again, sort of thing. It makes it feel like a world is happening.
One of the great character actors who will appear in Boogie Nights as the Colonel. I've been told you get a great big cock. I love Boogie Nights. I love Boogie Nights so much. Is Robert Ridgely, who walks through just glad-handing people in this. And I was like, oh, it's the Colonel. And obviously, I should talk about this. A lot of these people who have small parts in Paul Thomas Anderson movies are Jonathan Demme alums. Jonathan Demme, obviously director of Rachel Getting Married and Silence of the Lambs and Stop Making Sense and Something Wild and Married to the Mob. What a great, again, one of my favorite directors. And Paul Thomas Anderson came under the wing of Jonathan Demme and Robert Altman for a period of time. Robert Altman, of course, was very, very ill making his final film, A Priory Home Companion, and had Paul Thomas Anderson there working with him in the case of him dying.
Oh, wow.
He made it to the end of the film. He made that whole film. But that was like a literal situation that they had. And I think it's a combination of Altman's style, 70s Altman and 90s Altman, and Jonathan Demme in this frantic, wonderful, heady combination of two of my favorite filmmakers making my favorite filmmaker. Yes. In Sydney interrupting Sam being cruel for the Kino. Sam? Oh, it's Samuel L. Jackson. Being cruel to the bingo lady. Oh no, sorry. Sydney interrupting Sam being cruel. Oh, that was it. Sam talking about the guy with the voice box and just doing this horrible imitation. And then Sydney just interrupting him because they're calling the Kino. Sorry. Just starts doing the Kino.
And immediately staring at the board. Yeah, I mean, he's very much just kind of like you were saying, he's that business type. We love that.
I love this. The couple of moments from the Philip Seymour Hoffman scene. I don't wait for old people. I don't wait for old people. Fun. Have some fun. Shakalaka-doo. Shakalaka-dee. And yes,
I'm curious what the direction for that was.
I think just go for it.
It's like, hey, Philip, be obnoxious for 5 minutes and we're going to film you.
Do you think it's the old people? Do you think it's the, hey, old man? Do you think that's what triggers him to make the big bet and sort of prove him wrong? Is that what they're trying for?
Yeah, maybe. I think it's, the old man and accusing him of being kind of like out of the game. I think that's where we get the evidence of like Sydney had an exciting life in the past. Like Sydney was that guy at the end of the table screaming and shouting and making big bets and throwing his money around at one point. And now he's older and wiser and is more fastidious with his betting, I guess. He plays the safe, reliable game now. rather than being, the big spender that stands to win it all or lose it all sort of thing.
That's the one. Also, she's my wife, recontextualizing all of John's, reactions about like the prostitution and the fucking, like the way he says, like, they were having sex, and like every single time he stumbles when it comes to like the prostitution of Clementine in that moment. And then she's my wife is that snap of, oh no, because we knew that he loved her before, and we knew that, we just thought he was nervous about just like, him not wanting to see her as this sex worker. And now it's this thing of, oh no,
he's hurt.
This is his wife. I love the wedding tape gift that both got an awe from us.
It's such an unironically touching moment that he's watching the wedding video, and it's a really nice wedding too.
I just love Clementine's nervous laughter the whole way through the vows. She just can't stop laughing. Let's talk about Gwyneth Paltrow, because I think I talked about this with Jay on 7, but like, I fucking love Gwyneth Paltrow.
She's a fantastic actress. She's amazing.
I cannot stand people who are like, she's a bad actress. I mean, I think it's because she won for Shakespeare in Love, and that is arguably one of her like lesser performances. Like, there are moments in that where she's quite bad, but this Talent of Mr. Ripley, 7, I think she's genuinely great.
And don't forget Iron Man.
She did.
She's undeniably a fantastic actress. She was great in this. I totally believed her. She embodies.
She doesn't have that thing of. It's weird because she is an incredibly attractive woman, and is this sort of type A blonde character, which she of course plays to perfection in Talent of Mr. Ripley. But it doesn't feel in this. I think her performance is very nuanced, and she's directed very well, and it's written very well. It doesn't feel like, it's Gwyneth Paltrow dressing down to play this sex worker waitress in Las Vegas. It doesn't feel like dress up.
Yeah, no, I fully believe this is like, she's a beautiful woman in a bad situation who is stuck in Reno waiting tables and having to sleep with people on the side to get by. Like, and there was a lot of nuance and character. It made her her character and her performance were very touching. I felt like, you never felt like, oh God, she's holding back the plot, or like she's just some set dressing so that John C. Reilly and Sydney, so that John and Sydney look like good guys for saving her. Like, she was her whole own character and had her own motivations and everything.
I don't know how I can speak about it, because I don't really know what's different here from the other examples of this, but she also doesn't feel like the hooker with a heart of gold stereotype. It also doesn't feel like, she's a prostitute, but it's her first shift. She's a prostitute, but she's lovely and she's nice. And she's a prostitute, but she doesn't kiss them on the lips. All these things that make prostitution and sex work more tolerable to a major studio audience. Yeah.
No, they didn't pull any punches. Like, she is a prostitute, and it's everything that, that's a part of her world, but she's her whole own person. And the fact that she's a prostitute, they showed the ugly sides of that, and really give her space to like be a sympathetic character who was also like really hard to manage and has emotions and is irrational and makes bad choices, but is also somebody who's valuable and worth saving, essentially. Like, she's a person, and I think it's part of what makes her such a good character. What makes all these characters really good.
And my final weirdly specific favorite part is Samuel L. Jackson screaming at Philip Baker Hall, "Sit in that glass, it's yours."
Sit in that glass, it's yours.
You don't have any notes. You were sat with me. Here's a couple of notes I made for you. This is our new. I did this again. Save it for the pod.
Yes.
When John C. Reilly first came on screen, you said, "Oh, babyface John Reilly. He does look young in this, doesn't he?"
He looks much younger in this.
Is this where is this in John C. Reilly's career? Let's have a look. John C. Reilly.
I would be surprised if this isn't like one of his earlier movies.
Oh, it's definitely. Oh yes, he's one of the people in Casualties of War. Yeah. He's a young monk in We're No Angels. We're No Angels, underrated movie. Okay, yeah. So he has been in. He was also in Dolores Claiborne before this. Okay, so he's had a good, healthy career, a good, healthy decade so far of.
Yeah, and then he gets into this movie
of supporting roles, and then this and Boogie Nights, and then obviously the comedy starts. Because I think a lot of people, as he does more serious stuff now, think like, oh, what's this comedian doing serious work? Whereas he was a serious actor moving into comedies. I mean, of course, he infuses all of these roles with comedy. He is very funny at time to time. He's very funny, very, very funny in Boogie Nights.
John C. Reilly, I think, is absolutely one of my favorite actors out there. I think he can he does it all, and he does it all really well. And he's not an asshole.
Yes, how refreshing.
He's just a really good actor. And yeah, I think that's hard to deny, especially when you watch this.
Another thing you said, he plays stiff very naturally. What do you mean by that?
Well,
elaborate.
I think he's just very, very good at, I believe that he is a stiff and unnatural person rather than an actor trying to play someone who is stiff and uncomfortable, if that makes sense. Like when you watch him, you don't go, oh, that's John C. Reilly trying to look uncomfortable. Like he's very good at like moving through the world as a person who is uncomfortable and unsure and doesn't really know what to do, and it has all this shame and stuff kind of mixed up in him. Like it was all just very visible on the screen and in his performance, and he's very good at making that believable and not looking like he's playing for that, I guess.
Oh, I agree. You said about Sydney in the early stages. This is your trajectory with Sydney. He looks so fucking smug, and I don't know about what. And then later on, you're like, oh, so he's a creep who puts on the facade of being a gentleman. then you even had him when we found Sydney sleeping in his suit. Said, is this the ghost of the strip? Is this It's a Wonderful Life Vegas edition? And then it all comes together with. And then you ultimately came up with, oh, so it was the unrelenting guilt.
Yeah.
So why don't I talk about that trajectory? Because like it obviously we do come to find that it is a guilt thing. What were the other possibilities you had in your head?
I that's the thing, and I think that's part of what makes this movie work so well, and why the title Hard Eight might be better than Sydney. It's just because I had no clue what this guy's deal was for most of the movie, other than that he seemed committed to taking good care of John and Gwyneth. I couldn't figure him out. I could not figure out what is his motivation. Why is he doing any of this? What is the other shoe that's going to drop? And I think all that ambiguity, that's just, you can't tell. I couldn't tell, like, what kind of person is this guy?
You then also commented unwittingly talking about Magnolia, because the whole big thing with Magnolia, they say it like 5 times, is you may be through with the past, but the past ain't through with you, and that is the whole thing here as well. And like Magnolia is this tale of 10 stories, and this feels like a story from Magnolia. It feels like it could slot so easily into that huge.
Oh, web. Absolutely. He could fit right into that first 10 minutes.
So as you will find out with the other 3 hours. Let's do some nominations for Best Line. Let's do Best Line. I've got a couple here. I've got some here.
Sit in this class, it's yours.
Never ignore a man's courtesy. The first thing they should have taught you in hooker school, you get the money up front. Very, very cruel. I will fuck you up. I will fuck you up if you fuck with me, okay? I know 3 kinds of karate: jiu-jitsu, aikido, and regular karate.
That's fantastic.
I love nothing more in my writing than people accidentally realizing they're going to have to say something stupid to finish their sentence. Like, I wrote a line. I think I've used it multiple times now. Of it's you love booze or something. It's like catnip to a cat. Like I just love I just that sort of thing of like I know 3 types of karate. I know jujitsu, aikido, and just like regular karate. I love that thing of people inadvertently realizing
they're about to say something stupid. Oh God!
But they have to finish it off.
But there's no option. Just great stuff.
Yeah. And I also have, this is a very fucked up situation.
This is a very fucked up situation. And it was.
Yes, it was indeed. I'm a guy that's offering you a cigarette, buy you a cup of coffee. Lovely stuff. Can
I add to the list of sounds that I like? I just really like the sound of Philip Baker Hall offering to buy somebody a coffee.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like we don't even see his face, and it's just such an evocative voice. Buy you a cup of coffee. You know what it's better than Philip Baker Hall's voice. Philip Baker Hall. Oh my God, this is a tongue twister. Philip Baker Hall saying, "No, the R doesn't match the L," and you just sort of punch old man Philip Baker Hall in the face every time, every couple of hours. And I love that Zodiac's so long that you have to say the phrase every couple of hours, every hour or so.
Hour or so,
where he comes in and just goes, "Doesn't match," and you just go, "Fuck you! It does match. It has to match. It's definitely Arthur Allen.
You son of a bitch."
And I love Philip Baker Hall.
Oh.
Single Minute, the matches story, which we just talked about. Sydney and Clementine talking about flirting and tipping. Are you required to tip? And that's another one where on a first watch, you're like, is this guy just a real fucking creep?
Yeah. They were just it was something about his gaze and how fixed it was and just the prying nature of the questions. I don't know. And it's perfectly done.
And then I also have Jimmy's story about the stroke at the cards table. This guy's falling on the floor, flopping around and shit. Hit me on 9. And he's just doing this thing of like, and it does sort of, it reveals inadvertently how Sydney, as most likely an ex-mafia person who has killed multiple people, can just go through this world of Vegas where everybody is focused just on one thing, the gambling, and focused on themselves. It's like it's like, every time my mum comes to London, she's just amazed by just people just walking straight past everybody, not just the homeless, but any situation. Everybody's so busy and everybody is so like in their own world, because London and New York and Vegas are these metropolitans full of wackiness and just violence at times that you have to keep going.
Vegas is it's the city of vice and sin. It's a city dedicated to it, and I think the people there that navigate that place successfully know how to deal with those things essentially. And it colors Sydney in a very interesting way, in that he knows how to navigate a city full of people like Jimmy essentially and do it well.
I remember my voice teacher just randomly talking about coming in on the tube one day and seeing this old couple, both on crutches and navigating the tube. And she was just like, London is a hard city. And I always find this admiration for these old people who have lived there their entire lives and just won't leave.
That can still manage to just stick around.
Yeah. David's lighting incense, and with
incense, yes, I promise.
No, but like with his new mic and the smoke coming up. I don't know if you've ever seen talk radio or whatever, but you just look like these shock jocks from the 90s. Okay, man, we're gonna talk about something real now. We're gonna talk about something fucking real. You read about this? Yeah, back when.
Have you heard about this new report in the Guardian? The Guardian, listen to this.
Back when shock jocks were just dry and offensive and not spreading wild misinformation about public pandemics.
Well, no, you see, it's not a real podcast with 2 white guys until one of them whips out their way too expensive microphone to use.
I've never had one. And I sound fine. I sound somewhat fine. I sound fine. Single minute. Oh yeah, and then I also have the picking the honeymoon spot. No, I don't want to go to Niagara Falls. I've already been. John. That's another
you're
great
going to Niagara Falls.
John, what the fuck are you talking about, John? You've been to Niagara Falls. John. Again, that Philip Baker Hall ASMR voice, just absolute like butter. It's beautiful. A nomination for best single minute, David?
Oh God. You always end up pinging on all the ones that I like.
I know. I always should open it up to the guests before I know. I know this. I realize this every time.
No, I'd say that pretty much covers all of mine. I love the moment of Sydney just kind of cutting off Jimmy and the right before the keynote. But other than that, couldn't really tell you. Oh, I do love I will say I love the cut back and forth between Sydney waiting for Jimmy to come home and Jimmy's night out on the town. Yeah. That's
also a little bit of a nighttime drive with John and Clementine heading into the dark. Yeah,
that's a nice one. That's a nice moment. So I'd say that whole little sequence there. So maybe that's more of a 10-minute stretch, but I
agree.
Felt shorter than that.
That's lovely. Next, let's round out your save it for the pods. What's the significance about the duck paintings? Sydney has a crown, John has the one. And it's literally, I said this to you, it was the Goodfellas conversation where Joe Pesci brings out the dog painting and they go, what is it? I like this one. One's looking the other way, one's looking this way. Talking about Clementine, she is drugged up. And like, do you think that she's a heavy user? Or do you think she is just like looking pretty worn after these long shifts and the stress and strain of her life?
That was when I was still unsure of Sydney's intentions, and I thought that scene was about to go a much darker direction, essentially.
Let's talk about this now, because I've put it in What's the Change, but I don't know whether it should be in What's the Change or whether it should be in Tom's big question. What is the purpose of having the tolling bells there again and having us stay with Clementine and really building up to the idea that Sydney is a horrible man? Is it just for another twist, or is it just to put us? Actually, I'm taking this all back because it perfectly puts us in the position of what Clementine goes through every single time she has one of these sex times. Jesus Christ, one of these sex times with a client, and there is that 5 minutes that she goes through every time before the fucking and after, where it's like, is he going to hit me? Is this going to be violent? Is this going to be
how
terrible?
bad is this going to get?
Yeah. And
I thought the direction. I don't know why the tolling bells are thrown in right there, because the other time that we hear them is right before. Is it right before or right after coffee and a cigarette? Cigarettes.
It's right before. It's the opening credits.
Right. Yeah. So it's right before cigarettes and coffee. So it's right before he meets John C. Reilly and decides to help him. And it happens in the moment that I think he decides he's going to make an effort to really help Gwyneth Paltrow. I don't know. I mean, it
leads one mentally to be like, Sydney's help is a bad thing. You are making a deal with the devil. He is this sort of devil-like figure that we come to learn.
It's this foreboding. It gives you this immediate sense of like, oh, something bad is happening. And then something completely innocuous happens. And I think it's part of what throws you off for the first half of that movie up until the hotel scene.
Rather gloriously. Which leads us to, your other save it for the pods. He drives the same car as him too.
Yeah. They drive the same car.
Let's talk about this, because you noted this. Everybody always assumes that Jimmy's stupid. Whereas arguably he's one of the smartest guys there, or at least, I mean, he's still, he's not unwitted.
It was something that I noticed. Every person that Sydney talks to at some point goes, "You think I'm stupid, don't you?" Or something to that effect. "Oh, you must think I'm an idiot," or "You must think I'm dumb. You think I'm stupid, don't you?" Well, I'm not. And I just kind of noticed it in that moment. I was like, every person that's had an extended conversation with Sydney, other than Philip Seymour Hoffman, has at some point like lent into Sydney and gone, "You think I'm stupid, don't you?" It was a weird one. I wonder what it is about Sydney's unflappability that makes all these people automatically assume that he thinks they're stupid.
And I don't know. I agree. What's the change? I agree. I don't know what to say. Other notes. We watched a lovely little deleted scene called The Kiss, where they're heading to Niagara Falls. A lovely little deleted scene. I can understand the way it was cut.
Yeah,
It sort
I
of
feel like
marks. It sort of marks the change of this being a John and Sydney movie to it just being a Sydney movie, and so
I mean, it could have been. You could have either had that or the moment in the car where they say "I love you."
Yeah,
it was right. It was. I think they made the correct decision going with the car and something maybe a little less definite.
Yeah,
I guess.
And it keeps the momentum. So then we have again. How many of these have I done? Over 200, and I still forget where everything goes and all that shit. What's left for him? Oh yeah, what's the change? Here we are. What's the change? I don't like the flashback snippets of the first meeting when he's talking to Clementine and he's like, "How did you meet John?" And we get those couple of snippets of the cigarettes and coffee short film. It's just like, we've just seen this. We've just seen this. Calm down. We talked about playing the tolling bells over the first Clementine meet. Out of focus was Sydney at the door when he goes to meet John. That's just an error. I don't see any creative choice there. That is just like, oh, it's out of focus and not intentionally. The music waiting for Jimmy on one of your nominations for best single minute feels very jaunty. That would be a perfect tolling bells moment.
Yeah.
And it's they're playing this like Keno, like Michael Penn Vegas background music. I don't know.
I mean, it does make you wonder what the intention of the tolling bells is, that they played for Gwyneth and John, but not for Jimmy, essentially.
Is Jimmy betting the hard eight and then winning it cringy? Or is that just because now it's called Hard Eight? In a world where this movie is called Sydney, is it absolutely fine and we never think about it and we think it's this lovely little mirroring? Or now because it's called Hard Eight, anytime he goes, "I'm going to bet it all on Hard Eight," and he winks at the camera, it
could be a bit of early writing, or an early director sort of giving a wink and a nod to the title. But I thought it mirrored nicely with Sydney's night out.
And he wins.
And then Sydney gets to have all of his cash afterwards.
Indeed, it's paid off. He's a long run man. That's what I like about Sydney.
Yeah, that's the thing.
He's there for the long run. There are no notes. There are no notes. There is nothing.
No notes.
Here's some facts. According to Philip Baker Hall, Philip Seymour Hoffman improvised his scenes. There you go.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah. It has an energy, it hasn't it? Yeah, we talked about this. In Boogie Nights, Philip Baker Hall plays Floyd Gondoli in one of my favorite scenes. I don't want to say of all time, but it probably is. I'm a simple man. I like lollipops in my mouth and butter in my ass. I love Boogie Nights. You thought that this was like a fun one or whatever. I am going to be unhinged talking about Boogie Nights. I'm going to be a man set loose. This is one of my this is like number 5. We haven't recorded a top 10 movie since the first lockdown. Anyway. Paul Thomas Anderson on the DVD commentary admitted to successfully pulling off the casino rate trick several times. So there must be some truth in it.
There's something there. I just don't understand the grift. Maybe I wouldn't make it in Reno.
And that's it. Not much fun facts. Taglines. When good luck is a long shot, you have to hedge your bets. Feels very clunky.
Yeah. I mean, Sydney plays the long game, I guess, as we know, but it didn't really feel like that was...
Here's another one. If you stay in the game long enough, you'll see everything, win everything, and lose everything. Okay, that's fine.
I feel like that fits Sydney's character. I think the whole idea is that he's seen it all before.
Yeah, that could be good. He's seen it all before.
He's seen it all before.
Tom's big questions. Diner culture. David, when you go to a diner, are you just a coffee person? Are you a breakfast person? Are you a breakfast for dinner person?
I have stopped in a diner for just coffee before. It's always nice. I love a good diner. It's true. Yeah. The way they look in movies is exactly how I feel about them.
Because they never look great. It's not like
they never look great.
Yeah. There's not like this great romantic diner. I guess Baby Driver's pretty romantic.
That's a pretty romantic. The more like artificially 1950s a diner feels, the less I like it. A diner is a timeless thing that just exists, and they have the same shitty coffee at every diner and the same shitty, if you do eggs over easy, hash browns and bacon, with a coffee at every diner. You will have the same meal every time.
I don't know whether to have sea bass, the sea bass, the Mediterranean with chili sea bass, or my bacon for dinner.
You had a Mediterranean and for tonight. I thought you meant
ordered. Not at a That's literally.
I thought you ordered a Mediterranean sea bass at a diner. That's not a diner.
That is literally the John Mulaney. I think I'll have the lobster.
Who has a lobster?
Did you guys have gang signs in the bedroom stalls? Okay, I'll take the veal. Let's go kill that baby goat. What's veal? Baby lamb.
Yes. No,
sneaky,
baby cow.
Sneaky Christmas movies. Where does this fall for you in the world of sneaky Christmas movies? Because it is a sneaky...
Was it Christmas at any point?
Yeah, it's sneaky Christmas movie. Like, it's like there's all the lights and they're playing. Oh
yeah. I mean, it's one conversation. It's not during the whole of the movie.
No, but it ends with the Amy Mann song. It's Christmas time. I don't know why my Amy Mann impression is Morrissey. I don't know. I forgot to add Christmas time to my Amy Mann. Is it Chris and Amy? No. It's not that.
Everyone's favorite sound, the sound of a song being played through someone's iPhone speaker being filtered through an Apple AirPods microphone and projected over Zoom. That's good sound quality right there.
The song is called Christmas Time by John Bryan and performed by Michael Penn. Anyway, I'll find it eventually. What other... Oh, yes. Best casino movies. The best casino movie is Casino. That's the end of the conversation. How does John and Clementine work out?
I like that they leave it kind of ambiguous, which is why I think the hotel scene would have been too strong a scene to say like, oh, this is going to work out. They're going to make it work. I think the ambiguousness of them driving off into the dark together with just an exchange of I love yous. I don't think we need to know how it works out. I think the whole point is that however it's going to go, Sydney's going to be kind of keeping an eye on him, sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, let's next one. Does Sydney ever talk to John and Clem again?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Does he go and meet them? Does he ever give up on Reno and Vegas and all that sort of thing and go and meet them?
I don't know if he ever sees them in person again, but I think he's in John's life for a while after this movie.
Yeah. What happens when they find one? What happens when John eventually finds out that Jimmy's died?
Yeah, that's the thing. We don't really get the sense of when he finds out Jimmy's died. I don't know that he's ever going to find out. If I'm being perfectly honest, I think it's going to be one of those things where Jimmy just stops calling.
Yeah, it's like Jimmy's been real mean lately.
Jimmy hasn't been answering my calls.
And I've also got here as the final one, what is Sydney's past? And I think we know. We've discussed this.
Mafioso, in some manner.
Which brings us to the end of Hard Eights.
Huzzah!
Seen as usually with all these like movies that we do and all that sort of thing, I never get to rank because we always have different guests. Whereas David, after this, we'll be able to do a ranking, which is my favorite thing. I love ranking so much. I love ranking.
I love your lists and order.
I love lists and ranking. It's going to be wonderful. Next episode is my 5th favorite film of all time, Boogie Nights.
Hell yeah.
Do you know anything about Boogie Nights, David?
Nope, not a thing.
It's about porn.
Sweet.
It's Mark Wahlberg. It's Burt Reynolds. It's Philip Hoffman. It's Julianne Moore.
Mark Wahlberg and Burt Reynolds. That's a hell of a combination. Oh,
Heather Graham.
Anderson. These are some casts. Oh my goodness.
Luis Guzman.
Oh my god.
Robert Ridgely is the Colonel. What do you think? I don't know. Maybe you want to get some new shit. I
don't even need to see it at this point.
You don't. I could just do the whole film. Joanna Gleason. What do you know Joanna Gleason from?
No,
have you seen the recording of the 80s Into the Woods?
No. Do I seem like the like the
I don't
person
know.
who's seen the recording of 80s Into the Woods? I can't say I have, no.
Maybe there's a world where you see, because you like Phantom of the Opera. That didn't surprise me, but it was
I do like Phantom of the Opera. I saw the movie that they made back in 2015 or something. That was awful.
We don't talk about that. Who is the best part of that movie? That's what we're going to end on.
I mean, I'm tempted to say Meryl Streep.
No,
but
the answer is
she was
Anna Kendrick. I love Anna Kendrick. I don't like the Pitch Perfect movies, but I love Anna Kendrick.
Completely forgot she was in that movie.
On the steps of the palace. On the steps of the palace. That's Hard 8. That's it.
Thank you very much, Tom.
No, thank you, David. Long may we continue down this Anderson road.
Oh, yes, we shall.
Da ba da ba da ba da.